How's everybody doing? We have episode 8 of How Do You Like a Coffee with Connor and Kai. I am Kai. This is
Connor.
That's right. Well, you didn't have to sound so sad. But anyway,
It's a sad time in the world.
excited to be here. feeling loose, feeling light, feeling like we're, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Am I right?
Who said that?
Amen. That's the gospel.
I don't think you've ever read the gospel.
So, what we have for you guys, standard format, no interview today.
That's why I'm sad.
Yeah,
No interview.
No interview. It's just gonna be Connor and Kai talking to you live and
OG.
recorded. It'll be a good time though, as always. Very excited. So today we have putting a pin in it for you guys, as always, and we want to start it off for you guys with a little something different. It's not really that different, I guess.
It's kind of different.
Yeah. What do we got for them?
We have. I forget the name again.
We call it the lemon henny tea.
Lemon Henny tea.
That's right.
Well, the name is pretty self-explanatory, especially with the Hennessy bottle spinning right in front of us. But what we have here is lemon tea with some Hennessy.
That's right.
With a little bit of honey and agave sweetener in there to make it taste just absolutely amazing.
It's something. It's definitely yeah. But so let's go ahead and put a pin in it and let's give it a shot.
First time trying it.
Amen to that. Oh,
that was super loud.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Glass.
Sorry about that on Spotify. It's nice though. It's real sweet. Got that agave in there. Gives it like a light touch.
Seriously, I don't taste any alcohol. You could serve this to kids at the playground. They wouldn't know what they're drinking.
Well, for the sake of law and order, we're not going to do that.
So if you're trying to make a quick buck out there, I'm not saying do it, but I'm not saying do it.
Okay, well, don't do that. Anyway, yeah, no, it's pretty good. The Hennessy, you can't really taste it, but the agave you can taste, the lemon tea you can taste, and the honey. It's unfortunate because this cup's actually kind of sticky. But yeah, it's all good fun.
Why
Give it a shot.
sticky?
And again, that's Hennessy lemon tea, and a little bit of agave syrup.
Yeah, you probably don't need the honey in there if you're gonna use agave. This is really, really sweet.
Yeah,
we
but
we just doubled it up.
Still good though. Yeah, just a little bit of like I tripped and fell in. And but nonetheless, awesome stuff, guys. So let's get started with the album reviews. And what albums do we have to review? Actually, we're doing singles today. Got 2 singles and an album.
Yep.
Let's start it off with the first one. We got. We'll do the album first. All right. So we got Deep Lips
by Deep Lips.
Yeah.
But Deep Lips is actually the combination of 2 bands. Those 2 bands being Deep Valley and the Flaming Lips, and they came together to create the one and only Deep Lips.
I did not know that.
Well, now you know.
Yep.
So it's 2 bands put together. I've actually seen the Flaming Lips live once a couple years ago at a small bar in Santa Cruz called the Crepe Place.
Crepe Place?
Yeah.
Is that they do crepes?
They actually do, yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's a restaurant in the back. Really cool. Small venue. It was really intimate.
And what kind of music is this?
Psychedelic rock.
Psychedelic rock. So you're eating crepes, listen to some psychedelic rock. Early in the morning, 8 a.m., got your coffee.
Nope, didn't go at 8 in the morning.
Okay.
But we went at night. It was really fun. We actually ended up smoking a joint with the band after, which was a lot of fun and kind of a weird experience. Nice. Yeah, they're old. The Flaming Lips people are kind of old, but they're fun.
Cool.
Anyways, let's get to the album review.
Yeah.
So these 2 bands came together to put something out just recently, about a week ago. They're keeping themselves very busy during quarantine. Pretty fun little album to listen to, because it's cool to listen to because it's 2 different bands coming together to create one piece of art.
Do you know how many people are in each band? I'm trying to think of how many people that would take.
I think Deep Valley is just a 3-piece band. It may even be 2, but I know the Flaming Lips is like a 6-piece band.
Oh, so that's like 9 people coming together and making some magic happen. 9
minds is better than 8.
Oh, you're not wrong.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
So. No, the band. It's actually a really cool album. It's psychedelic rock during quarantine. I was looking at this album review on NPR about this, and they called it quarantine rock.
Okay.
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means.
I don't think it means anything.
Maybe it's like depressing rock and roll.
But it's not really depressing. And the first song is called Home Through Hell, which is actually kind of fun. It's kind of cool and funny at the same time because the song talks about how everything is changing around them, but they have this one simple thing that keeps them solid, keeps them grounded. And in this song, it talks about their Yamaha motorcycle, I believe.
Nice.
And it kind of plays on the fact that, everyone's going through all these different changes and everyone's stuck at home.
Okay.
And it just keeps keeps everyone grounded. Being at home, surrounding yourself with familiar things while everything else around you outside of your home is changing.
Okay.
And they kind of play off that for that first track.
Do you have a favorite song on the album? Like, is there one that really hits home for you?
The one that really hits home, honestly, was probably Home Through Hell.
Okay.
But I liked it a lot. There was one song in there that was just noise for like 2 minutes. That one I didn't really like.
Yeah,
it was weird. It was experimental, but
it was something.
It was something. How'd you like it?
It was okay. I mean, I really only listened to like one song. I actually focused on the other two singles that we're going to listen to by Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan. Very excited for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't listen to too much of the Deep Lips. Unfortunately, I forgot in my daily schedule. I forgot to write it down.
He forgot to listen to that, and he forgot to charge the camera.
Yeah, so we're running on thin ice today. But
let's make it quick.
Yeah, but luckily, we have 3 strikes in life, right? And so those are the first 2 for the day. And then every day they start over, so we're fine. It's okay. There's only 2.
Not even by the week. You start by the day. You really.
So to get into the Bob Dylan single. Is Bob Dylan. Is actually really funny because I was at work, played some music on the computer. I was the only one in the lab, so don't worry, it was just me. And listened to Bob Dylan, and one of the other coworkers that worked in the facility walked into the room. They're like, "Is this your music?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Bob Dylan." This is the first time I ever listened to Bob Dylan.
Really?
Yeah, first time I ever listened to Bob Dylan. She's like, "Oh no, I know it's Bob Dylan. I'm just really impressed you listened to him." I played it off.
How old is this person that's asking you, or that's astounded that you
like 20, 26, 27.
Okay, so they're like your age.
Yeah. And they were like, "Man, I can't believe you listen to Bob Dylan." And I was like, "Me neither." Because I've never listened to Bob Dylan before in my life. But the song was actually pretty cool. What's the song called again?
False Prophet.
False Prophet, that's right. It was actually really the story behind it was actually pretty cool. Because it's Bob Dylan, it's pretty slow rock, and it has kind of like a blues jazz vibe, but at the same time like a rock and roll type of feel, which is kind of cool. I actually really enjoyed it. I definitely see myself listening to some of his other songs in the future.
Dude, I know for a fact you've heard Bob Dylan before. He's so famous.
maybe I have, but
like a Rolling Stone.
But we don't know. I don't know names here, right?
That's right.
So I probably have listened to Bob Dylan, but overall a great song. False Prophet. It really talks about kind of like I don't really remember what it talks about. What does it talk about?
I'm not going to answer for
I'm losing it.
But no, the main reason we listen to the single is because he has a new album coming out in the next week. June 9th. No, not June 19th. June 20th is when he's coming out with this album.
Very cool.
Or when you're listening to this on Friday.
Yeah, 3 days.
So 3 days from when you're hearing this now.
Yes, it was very easygoing Bob Dylan music. I really liked it. It's like I said, a little bit of blues, a little bit of jazz, but also some rock and roll type vibes. The message, it was kind of gave me like an outlaw type of.
No, you're exactly right.
Like an outlaw type of message to it, and type of feel, and kind of like the story he talks about is about kind of like
being an outlaw.
Yeah,
no, absolutely.
And it was really cool.
So everyone watch out for that new album. It's called Rough and Rowdy Ways by Bob Dylan, coming out June 20th.
Yeah.
And the next single we have for you is
Willie
Nelson, classic. Willie Nelson. Please don't whisper into the microphone.
Willie Nelson. It's called
I'm the Only Hell My Mama Ever Raised.
That's right. It is actually I've listened to Willie Nelson in the past. It sounds like a lot of Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson's weird to me because.
Why is that?
He's weird to me because honestly, I think his voice is just average. I don't think it's like crazy. It's not like a Rihanna.
Well,
and it's not like a low. It's just kind of like a country voice, and he just sings, and it sounds good together.
This is a good thing he sings country if he has a country voice.
Yeah, but it was good though. It was
It sounds like classic Willie. I don't want to say I grew up on Willie Nelson, but I grew up listening to a lot of Willie Nelson. My grandma listened to him a lot. Every road trip we took, Willie Nelson was on. Wilson came on like at least 30 times.
Yeah,
my sister can approve that message as well.
Hell yeah.
Willie Nelson's
my take on the song was kind of, he talks about, just kind of like the rebellious type of stuff that he did, and then it talks about like when he gets to heaven, he talks about how like when he gets there, it's pretty much they're just gonna like send them back was my understanding, but maybe that's the wrong message. But
No, I think you got it right.
Yeah,
that sounds right to me.
It's pretty good though.
But again, we're listening to this single because he has a new album coming out on July 3rd. So for all of you people who will be celebrating 4th of July in your backyard, barbecuing, drinking cold beer, put on this album because first off and foremost, country just fits the 4th of July vibe.
America.
I don't listen to country that much, but when I do, it's on 4th of July when I'm drinking a Bud Light.
Yeah. I feel like Willie Nelson like started music.
He's not that old, but he's pretty freaking old, man. And he still performs, which is crazy. He has a lot of energy. His 70s.
Yeah, has a lot of energy. He doesn't look 70.
I think he looks 70.
All right. Apparently, my album review today is not very accurate, but
your eyesight's bad.
Yeah, eyesight is bad. Yeah.
Hey, it's because he smokes a bunch of weed. I think that's why he's just gonna live forever. I don't think there's ever gonna be an article that says Willie Nelson dead at the age of 258 or something.
Yeah, something cool.
He'll be around longer than me,
and he'll still be writing music at that time, I'm sure.
He's gonna die with a guitar in his hand. I have no doubt.
That'd be cool.
And then a joint in the other.
Yeah,
but that's
good times though. Willie Nelson, people. But those are your album reviews. Check out those albums; they'll be coming out soon for you guys.
And then check out Deep Lips out now.
Yeah, out now
on Spotify.
We got it.
We have a dog in the frame.
Yep, no interview for you guys. Just
sorry, Mila, no interview.
What
did she think about the albums?
Yeah, she cried.
She cried.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she cries a lot. She whines a little bit.
She did. We actually had to restart this recording because she kept whining in the first one, so that was really annoying.
Yeah, she loves attention, and that's pretty much all you can give her.
She got a haircut recently.
Yeah, for everywhere. I'm still vacuuming it up. I vacuum every day, and this apartment never gets clean because her.
I actually got a haircut recently on Wednesday.
Oh,
a week ago.
Oh my god, I just noticed that.
How dare you? It just feels good to be sexy again. It really does. Hide your mom.
So what do we have for the music news today, Connor?
Oh,
keep it coming.
MG
apostrophe PH.
Clef. What we have for you is unfortunate news. In case you guys haven't heard, there's something going around called the coronavirus that's really fucked up the music industry and put my job at jeopardy, which is really unfortunate. But every music festival you've probably ever heard of is postponed to October, including the festival I work for. They postponed to October. Bad news coming to you live. Coachella and Stagecoach have officially canceled their 2020 festival and are pushing it back to the original April weekend in 2021. What does this mean?
A long time. Yeah. What does that mean?
I don't know. Will they have the same lineup? Probably not. This lineup was actually going to be a huge deal because Rage Against the Machine was going to perform. This is their first time performing in a very long time. They came back together to do a full tour going across the states. And
what does Coachella profit? Like, what's their profit margin?
What do they profit? Well, usually they bring in around $100 million every year, which is insane.
Yeah.
Insane, because I know Rage Against the Machine cost $1 million at least to perform this year.
So is that $100 million that they get to keep, or is that $100 million that they made altogether? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think this is $100 million they get to keep. That was their profit.
Jeez.
They profit $100 million.
So they probably made like $200 million.
Yeah, and then they have to pay all the bands.
Yeah,
which
venues.
I don't even know. Like, I know what it costs for the most part. I know what it costs for our lineup for the festival, which is a lot. But this lineup, I mean,
on a whole nother
every
level.
single person in like the top 3 line billings, which is, if you see a poster, top line billing is the headliner. They always have the biggest name with the biggest font.
Yep.
And so the next 3 lines down, each person they have performing can easily headline their own festival, no doubt. So those top 3 lines of billing for each 3 days probably costs close to like $30 million.
Yeah, so who do we have? We have Rage Against the Machine.
Yep, and then Travis Scott and then Frank Ocean. Those are their top 3 headliners.
That's pretty
good.
And
then below them, they have Calvin Harris, Run the Jewels, Rexhorn County, Megan Thee Stallion on day 1. Day 2 is 21 Savage, DaBaby, Summer Walker, Flume. And then on the day of Frank Ocean, they have Lana Del Rey, Lil Uzi Vert.
A lot of big names.
Sounds
like a lot of money.
You're exactly right. It's a lot of money. But it's unfortunate for all you Coachella fans out there. I've personally never been. It's been one that I want to go to just because I work in that industry. Yeah, just to say that I've been there. But that's obviously not going to happen this year. Yeah. I don't know if I'll see any live music this year.
Ever.
Well, I actually saw some at the beginning of the year, but I won't see anything else in 2020, which sucks because I know a few weeks ago we said news in Europe, I forget where, Auckland, New Zealand, they were going to do live concert series.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's happening there. Maybe they did it.
Yeah, and Australia was going to do the whole like upcoming artist type thing, right? And only Australian bands. That's what we talked about a few weeks back.
Yeah. They were for their festival. They were just going to do only Australia bands, so that no one would have to fly in.
So I'm curious how it's all going to get updated because they're talking about having a second surge of virus outbreak and things like that. I imagine most of it is because of the protests. A lot of protests, so we're all going to get bigger surges in coronavirus due to the fact that everybody's getting together. And
which makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot.
And a lot of people on social media have been saying, oh, don't blame the protesters for the spike in coronavirus.
Yeah.
Obviously blame, our health officials and, the president and stuff, which obviously very much contributed. But we caught it really late.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
there's a lot of people together.
Yeah, which is the one thing you shouldn't be doing right now. But at the same time, the protests are for a good cause, and I fully support them.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised that that's one of the reasons that the outbreak is.
Yeah, like I think San Francisco had a protest of 20,000, I think it said, or something, maybe even larger than that. But imagine 20,000 people all in one street, and
all shoulder to shoulder screaming.
I mean, I'm not saying they're the reason. I'm just saying if the shoe fits, you know what I'm saying?
Fucking wear that thing. Wear it to the balls.
Yeah, so that's that. What else you got?
So, yeah, it's really unfortunate because, Coachella brings in – dude, did you know Coachella brings in 125,000 fans to this festival? That's crazy. Our festival, Cali Roots, brings in 15,000 at the most. I mean, given our venue is smaller and we're only allotted 15,000.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we're only allotted 13,000, but we like to push the limits.
Yeah, I love limits.
But 125,000 people, that freaks me out.
Yeah.
From the point of working on a promoter side, like the security, that's just got to be like the biggest hassle in the world to deal with stuff like that.
No, I actually really enjoy all the videos of people posting them going to like the Coachella sites a week before the festival and they bury alcohol or they bury things in the ground, and then when they get there they go and dig it up.
Yeah, so then they don't have to sneak it past security. That's smart, honestly. Like
smart, but yeah, that's crazy.
That's just dedicated. I mean, to the those are usually people who live in that area because I feel like Coachella Valley doesn't really have a huge.
Yeah, I wouldn't drive 6 hours to go do that.
Hell no, I'm not that desperate. I'll just buy alcohol when I'm in there. I ain't that broke.
But
at the same time, this is hard. Speaking of Coachella Valley, this is going to be a huge hit to their city economy because, I mean, Coachella Valley really profits off that weekend. They bring in 125,000 people to this small town.
Yeah.
And so that city, I don't know much about Coachella Valley, but I can't imagine it's that big of a city.
Well, it's in Indio, right? And so they also have Stagecoach.
Yeah.
And a lot of other festivals.
It's a tourist town.
That now aren't happening. So they're going to take a big hit this year. So that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts. It's sad for them.
Yeah.
But going into more music industry news, last week we spoke about racism in the music industry, which is obvious and very prevalent. However, we talked about what could be done. Well, now let's talk about what is being done.
Okay. I'd like to hear it. Yeah.
BMG, which is a fairly new music record label. I believe they started business in 2008. They have gotten really big. They have bought out many different like indie labels, record labels. They bought out one label out of Tennessee for like $100 million last year. Anyways, they are at the forefront right now of changing the ways they operate to decrease the level of, racism in their company. Starting with, like I said, they're a fairly new company, and the contracts that they started in 2008 are pretty up to date. But from the record labels they bought, some of those contracts have been going on and have been, some of those contracts started back in like the 80s or 90s. And so what BMG is doing is they're reviewing those contracts from these labels that they bought, and they are going to ensure that royalties are being distributed correctly and evenly and fairly, as well as amending those contracts for those Black artists to make sure it shows fairness and transparency.
Okay.
And then something also they're going to be focusing on, and I mentioned last week, is diversifying their board, their executive board. Because like I mentioned last week, a lot of these Black artists go into these record label meetings with the head of the label, and it's just all, for the most part, mainly older white gentlemen. Yeah. And so
it's crazy to me that it took so long. Like, why did it take this to understand that they needed to diversify who's in charge of these big companies, And it's good that they're taking a change and they're making a change, but it's just
better late than never, I
Yeah.
guess. But at the same time, I mean, you could say that about anything going on in the country. I mean,
Yeah.
systemic racism, people are finally starting to realize what's going on behind closed doors. And,
Mhm.
with the police, everyone's trying to defund the police and stuff, which is a whole nother story that I won't get into.
I brought up to Connor because he mentioned he wanted to talk about this topic prior to the podcast, and I was like, I feel like we really covered the topics of racism in America right now and racism in the world, and with last week's episode and the week before that's episode. However, it's one of those things that it's always going to be talked about until it's fixed, and so that's why this is pretty big, because it's if anything, what we want you guys to take away is the fact that we've talked about it 3 weeks in a row, because every week for the past 3 weeks, something big regarding racism in America has occurred.
And it's all been forward progression, which is nice to hear.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's good. Yeah, I know. When you said, we were like, should we talk about this? I was like, well, yeah, because now it's like we're talking about the actions being taken. Last week it was identifying the problems. Now this week it's taking action against those problems, which is good.
Yep.
Glad that we're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And so going off of that, the changes being made. Another, I wouldn't really say it's a change, but something progressive that is going on is that 3 major record labels altogether have donated almost $230 million to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is great. Also, going off of what I said about diversifying their boardroom at BMG, they said that's going to happen in 30 days.
Sweet.
Yeah, so it's a pretty quick turnaround. I'd be pretty impressed if they could pull that off.
Like I said, it's just so crazy to me how easy it is for them to do it, and they're not doing it until right now. But again, better late than never.
Better late than never. So, we'll check back in, 4 episodes?
31 days.
4 episodes from now. Hopefully we'll have some news on if that actually went 100% the way they wanted it to.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, it's great stuff. But that's really all I had,
Awesome.
It's big stuff. Coachella canceled, Stagecoach canceled, and BMG's moving in the right direction.
Awesome.
What you got for me?
Yeah, let's get to it. So what we got for you guys today, it's actually pretty interesting stuff. As always, we want to shed some light on what's new and improved in the world and what's up and coming and all that good jazz.
Yeah, how are you going to top last week? We talked about a sponge that only absorbs oil.
Oh, let me tell you, brother.
All right.
We have some good stuff for you. So according to National Science Foundation, there is a group at University of Colorado, Denver. The group is led by Chris Yakaki.
Oh, that's a fun name.
That is a fun name. So the group's led by Chris Yakaki, and this group did some research on how to 3D print vertebrae and cartilage-based materials to be used as human alternatives to transplants and things like that. The one thing about cartilage and bone is that you can't really transplant it. Like, you can't take it out of someone else and give it to someone else because it's really complicated.
I can't just give you my femur.
No, I mean, I guess you could, but I mean, I don't think it's very successful in terms of, there's a lot of issues, I would imagine.
Okay.
But what's really cool is they came up with this 3D printed cartilage-based system or material where they were able to 3D print a vertebrae of humans. And one of the complications with this in the past is that they either make it too brittle, so if it has any type of force, impacted to it, it basically breaks down.
Sounds like my hip at the age of 80.
Yeah, or they make it too strong where it doesn't absorb any energy pretty much, and it just doesn't really work that well. So finally, they came up with this 3D printed lattice structure, and the material that they use is a liquid crystal elastomer. So the idea of this and the reason it's so huge is because the material is just the right amount of density, I guess you would say, so that it acts like cartilage where it can take impact and kind of absorb energy, but it's not brittle enough to break down. And it's actually a really big step into artificial bones and organs and things like that, because then they can use this material in the future. So that's really cool.
I love the future. I love that.
Yeah.
Now I can break my back knowing I can get
Yeah.
something to replace my broken vertebrae.
Exactly. So if you ever break a vertebrae, they can technically 3D print you a new one and implant it. It's kind of complicated though, because when you're talking about vertebrae, one of the complications with vertebrae is you have the spinal cord going through the middle of them. And the spinal cord is very, 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 very important for many things.
I didn't know that. I'm just
Okay. It's really important because it has a lot of nerve endings and things like that connected to it. It relays reflexes. So, for example, your brain is connected to your spinal cord, and let's say you want to move your leg. So your brain has to send the signal, goes down to your spinal cord, down to the nerves of your body, and then your leg moves, right? But reflexes, what they do is, let's say you trip, the time it takes to get all the way for that message to your brain and then back down to your leg to like make an adjustment when you trip is quite a long time when you're talking about body movements. But the spinal cord can have nerve endings and nerve connections that go just to the spinal cord, so that if you trip, your spinal cord has these reflexes that can kind of send messages where the message...
It doesn't like need your brain to send
It doesn't need your brain, yeah. So that's what reflexes...
Like muscle memory.
Kind of like muscle memory.
Okay.
But basically, let's say if you step on like a nail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're about to step on a nail, it's about to go through your foot.
Mm-hmm.
It would take a lot longer for it to go all the way up to your brain and back down to your foot to tell your foot to move.
Okay.
Reflexes just go from your foot to your spinal cord back to your foot. So it basically cuts the time in half.
Interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
So the reason that this is complicated is because there's a lot of different nerve endings and things like that connected to the spinal cord. So when you're talking about replacing vertebrae, you have to replace vertebrae in a sense that it can not mess up with the spinal cord, as well as the spinal cord has to be sterile, or else you can get things like meningitis. And meningitis is when you have inflammation through your spinal cord and through your brain and things like that.
I once went to the ER because I actually ended up having strep throat, but the doctor thought I had bacterial meningitis.
Yeah.
And they said that could kill a kid in like 24 hours.
Yeah, because once it gets into your spinal cord doesn't work as well, and you basically get an infection where there's not supposed to be anything at all because it's supposed to be sterile.
Yeah. They did a spinal tap on me.
Yep. And I've seen them, and they look like they hurt. I've never had one on me.
And the thing, to go off of that, when I had the spinal tap done, I had to lay down for like a week because if you stand up, it leaks spinal fluid out of the hole where they did the spinal tap.
Until it heals up, yep.
Yeah, and so this happened around Christmas time. So I had to open my Christmas gifts laying on my back on the couch.
I love it.
Seriously, I'm just laying on the couch, like looking, and my mom had to hand me the presents, and it was a whole thing.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. The spinal cord's very serious stuff. It's very important in the body. It's in charge of a lot of different connections and movements and things like that. And so when you're talking about replacing a vertebrae and the spinal cord goes through these vertebrae, it's tough. It's difficult. So the fact that they're being able to make progression through being able to come up with advances that help situations like this, I was trying to think about how you would even replace a vertebrae without messing with the spinal cord. And I imagine it's very, very difficult.
Props to those doctors who can do it. Now I can finally step on that crack and break my mama's back and not worry about it.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, it's complicated. But when I was doing this research, I kind of dove deeper into, what other organs and things like that they can kind of come up with artificially.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, after an hour and a half, I made my way to artificial kidney transplants. Yeah,
I could finally drink.
Yeah, well, okay. And it's actually really, really interesting because your kidneys are also important. But what's cool about the kidneys is you can live with one.
That's good.
Yeah, it's cool. So they can take one out and you can live with one. And the science behind the kidney actually is it compensates for the lack of one kidney when you get it removed, so that it expands to like 1.3 times the size of one kidney.
Dang.
To kind of like overtake the amount of fluid and filtration that it has to go through.
Kidney gets swole.
Yeah, so the kidney is very interesting in a sense. All organs are interesting because they all have their own play in the world.
Did you learn this when you went into your research? I heard that you could replace a kidney with like a pig's kidney. Was that a thing?
Or you probably could, because remember last week we talked about model organisms, which is the word that I forgot. Model organisms. So mammals are very similar in protein structure and DNA structure, so that you can be able to transplant them, from
without too much problems.
There was a story going around actually a while back where they were trying to grow human ears on the backs of mice.
South Park did an episode about that.
Yeah.
Where they had a penis on the back of the mouse.
Okay.
It's so funny.
And I don't know how that transplant would work, but so they were trying to grow human ears on the backs of mice and rats so that they could grow them, and then after they grew them, transplant them to the human. So that's kind of interesting, yeah. But
a little farm of ears running around.
Imagine a rat with like 5 ears growing out the back of it.
Imagine it escaping.
Yeah.
And then you just see a rat, like an ear.
Probably has supersonic hearing, no doubt.
Ooh. It can hear with its spine.
So to go off of that, I got some facts for you guys regarding all these different things. So there's 4 categories of artificial organs and artificial human structures. And so to go through them, the first category is bones and joints, such as hips, knees, fingers, toes, limbs, things like that are kind of like reconstructive type surgeries or physical properties, right?
Okay.
And then you have skin and soft tissue. So skin, breast transplants, muscle transplants, things like that. And then you have heart, kidney, blood vessel, liver, and pancreas. And then you have sensory organs like eyes and ears and things like that. The one that kind of struck me, the heart makes sense. That I believe they actually did come up with a artificial model of the heart, and the heart is complicated, but it's kind of easy because it's really just like a vacuum-based system. Because your heart, the main purpose of your heart is to pulsate and pump blood, right? So if you can pump blood with a vacuum, you can pump blood with an artificial heart vacuum type thing, right?
I can put a water pump where my heart is.
Something like that, yeah. So that's kind of what they did. I believe it was like a silicone heart or something like that. That was really cool. And so they're able to do that. But kidneys and livers are the 2, as well as pancreas, are the 2 that kind of made me question, the possibilities, because all of those require like a filtration type system. So there has to be a type of mechanism to filter out toxins and things like that. So your liver does that, your kidneys do that, and your pancreas doesn't really do that. It's more of like a enzyme releasing type of organ, but nonetheless, that's still really important stuff. So I'm trying to think of how they can make artificial pancreas. But to get into the kidneys, there was actually a study done at UCSF that they made a artificial kidney that you could transplant inside of a patient, which is cool because right now a lot of patients are on dialysis. Are you familiar with dialysis?
I am familiar with it. I don't know exactly. I mean, they hook them up to a machine which filters their blood for them, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the kidneys, so the kidneys, they have a section in the beginning of the kidney where your blood vessel connects to. It's called the glomerulus. And then you have the Bowman capsule goes around the glomerulus, and then you start getting into the nephron, and it starts to pump different toxins throughout the nephron. And the idea of the kidney is that you can cycle out sodium, chlorine, potassium, and water, and all these other types of filtrates that go through it. And the idea is to keep the internal, how do you want to say, like, balance, I guess, of toxins inside the body equal to what they're supposed to be. People with bad kidneys can't filter out these different toxins, and then they start to collect them inside. So you get all these solutes and salts inside the body, and
which you're not supposed to have.
Which you're not. Well, you are supposed to have. To an extent,
it's supposed to balance,
but you don't want too much, because the reason, if you get too much solutes inside your body, you start to get like water reabsorption more so than you're supposed to, and so you basically get like inflammation at your extremities and like puffy eyes and things like that, because you have too much fluid overload. And so kidneys are really important in that sense. But the idea of dialysis is that you pump the blood through a machine. It filters out all these different toxins and solutes and salts inside the body, and then filters the blood back into the body so that it's clean. I was trying to remember how often dialysis patients have to go through this, and I saw a stat that said they have to do it 3 times a week for 4 hours each time.
Yep.
Like, that's nuts. So usually they have it on like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, something like that, where it's like every 2 days they have to go to a dialysis center and get their blood dialyzed and filtered out, which is crazy. So the fact that UCSF is working on an implantable kidney that you can just put inside of the body, it's basically like a not microscopic, but like a smaller version of a dialysis machine implanted inside of you.
So it's like a kidney transplant, but they're not giving you a person's kidney; they're giving you a
artificial
machine.
kidney. Yeah, like a machine that filters out.
That's really cool, because my office for my music job is right next door, like in the same building, is a doctor that focuses on infectious disease, but they also do dialysis. And so I've met a few of the patients in there, because I'll go out and use the restroom once, and I see them just coming in, and then towards the end of my day, they're still in there on the dialysis machine. Yeah, that shit. Yeah, that goes a long time. That's rough, and hopefully, for those people on dialysis, this hopefully comes to light fairly quickly. And have they done trials? Any human trials on it?
I'm not sure about the trials, but things like this do take a long time. It's not like they can like create it in January and all of a sudden have it ready for people by the end of the year. I'm not entirely sure how the artificial organ system works, but I know for new types of drugs and therapeutic type of medications, it could take up to 10 years.
Oh god, that's not good news for the coronavirus.
Get a new drug. Yeah. Well, the coronavirus is different because vaccines are a little bit faster, and because they declared it a state of emergency and a pandemic and everything, they were kind of able to jump some hoops and get things going a lot quicker.
Get through some red tape and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they were able to get that process going a lot quicker than it would otherwise. But I saw this statistic.
I love that.
Yeah, I love statistics because they're important.
That was actually the one math I was good at.
So with this transplantable kidney that UCSF was doing research on, they said 93% of them worked after 1 year and 83% still worked after 3 years, which is awesome.
That's really good.
Yeah, those are really high rates.
That's like my high school grades.
Yeah. You were that
on a
smart.
Good day.
You were that smart.
I cheated a lot.
So that's really cool that they were able to make it sustainable and efficient enough to last for a long enough time to where it's effective for patients going through this process. And they say about 25,000 kidney transplants happen every year. And even after that, there are 90,000 and up
on a waiting list.
On the waiting list.
Woo!
Every year, 90,000 and up. And so these discoveries and advancements in transplantable kidneys and artificial organs will be able to cut these waiting lists down because they won't have to wait for a donor. And another statistic that it noted was that it takes about 5 to 10 years for a patient to get a kidney transplant once on the waiting list.
Damn, so that's like 5-10 years of dialysis that they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
Either dialysis or their kidneys, improve a little bit and they don't need dialysis, but nonetheless, they have that kidney that's not really working.
Yeah, they have that weak one.
And you can get it removed, but then what happens if you get it removed and your other one goes out? Then you're kind of like...
Then you're like, ooh.
SOL, So,
SOL?
Shit out of luck.
Shit out of luck.
Yeah.
Oh.
Never heard that before?
I haven't heard of SOS.
So those are some big numbers, and so this stuff will really be able to make all those processes a lot more efficient and sustainable and improve lives of everybody, which is cool. And so how they do this is they either give you an AV graft, which stands for arteriovenous graft, and they take a tube. I don't know. I'd imagine it's like a foot long, 6 inches to a foot long, and they basically connect a vein and an artery so that when you go into dialysis, they just puncture one site every single time. They don't have to find a vein every time. They already have the fistula or the graft, and it's noticeable. It actually bulges out of the skin to the point where you can see it, and you don't have to guess. And so that's cool. The other one is the AV fistula, which is where they take a vein and an artery and basically connect them together. Not where the blood supply is going through both, but where they're just right next to each other. And they take needles and insert one into the vein and one into the artery. So they pump blood out of the artery and then pump blood back in through the vein. And so, so all these advancements are really going to be able to help a lot of people and hopefully shorten the waiting list, which is cool.
2020 isn't as bad as it seems.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff in there.
We have advancements.
And we're finding them for you.
Yeah, exactly. We're finding them so you guys can stay up to date and have a little bit more knowledge on the topics.
I feel comfortable enough where I can go operate and give someone a kidney transplant now after listening to this. Tyler, you're my first patient.
Maybe after one season of Grey's Anatomy, I trust you.
I've been in Grey's Anatomy.
So that's cool. So those things are coming up. So again, to recap, group at University of Colorado Denver came up with this artificial vertebrae that is able to act as cartilage and be able to take impact without breaking, and it absorbs energy, and that's really awesome.
So step on those cracks and break your mom's backs, and you won't have to worry anymore.
We're not promoting that. We're just saying if accidents happen.
I'm promoting it.
Oh gosh, jeez. So that's cool. And then not really more science news, but as I was looking through different types of topics, I noticed that there was a lot of talk about Tesla right now, and I kind of wanted to get into beginner stocks. And
that's right. You want to talk about stocks today? I forgot about that.
Talk to people kind of about stocks and kind of give them a background in case you're unfamiliar. And
before we get into the stocks, the Tesla factory that opened up in Fremont against the city's code, they had an outbreak of coronavirus at the factory.
Really?
I swear.
That's okay.
That's a little karma.
Yeah, that's
for going against the city's
that's something
standards.
I didn't know that. That's actually really unfortunate, and
it's unfortunate for those people.
Crazy.
And Elon, take note. Excuse my language, but take note.
Jeez.
So stocks.
Make
me some money.
Yeah, so I wanted to get into a little bit of beginner 101 because stock market right now, as a lot of people know, with everything going on, stock market's down today and yesterday. It was up. Well, it closed yesterday because it's Friday. So stocks close every Friday, open up every Monday, unless Monday's a holiday.
My boss has actually started day trading. Now that work has slowed down for us, he started day trading. He said he's making good money on it.
Yeah, you got to invest, people. Got to invest. Now's the time to do it. And this is more for the younger crowd that isn't familiar with stocks and wants to get invested. I'm sure some of the older crowd is a little bit more familiar with these topics. But
log off, geezers.
Oh my gosh, you're on it right now.
I'm feeling good. It's the lemon henny or whatever.
Lemon Hennity.
Lemon Hennity.
So to get into it, let's go through a couple of the vocabulary for people, right? So you have your individual stocks where it's like actual shares of a company. You have mutual funds, which are basically funds of stocks that are multiple stocks and bonds and companies into one. So for example, the S&P 500 is not just one individual stock of a company, it's stock into multiple companies. And you like own a little bit of each. And then the third one is bonds. And bonds, I actually, when I was doing this research, learned a lot more this morning when I was looking at it. Bonds, so companies need startup money or they need money to get things going. And so instead of going to a bank for a $6 million loan, they can release bonds. So let's say they have a bond worth $1,000 and they need $6 million. They will release 6,000 of those $1,000 bonds and you can buy one. And the upside of this is that they pay you interest rather than the bank, and that's how you make your money. The reason a lot of people don't like this, though, is because it takes a long time.
It does, yeah. It has a very slow turnaround.
Yeah, it has a slow turnaround, but it's a lot more successful turnaround than individual stocks because the stock market itself is very volatile and goes up and down all the time.
Bonds are basically, in a sense, guaranteed your money back.
Exactly.
But it's the risk of not getting that money as soon as you'd want it.
Yeah, and so that's the only downside of that, but those are three important aspects of stocks. And to give you guys a little bit more insight, so they have indexes to kind of tell you whether or not the stock market is up or down. And what they use is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and they use the S&P 500. And those are two of the largest components of the stock market to where if they go up and down, you can kind of use them as an index to tell you whether or not the rest of the stock market is going up and down.
Exactly.
I personally invest in stocks.
I was going to ask, do you have money in the stock market?
I love stocks. I think the stock market is really cool. And there's actually this book by Warren Buffett, who is big time billionaire. Right?
He's sure the man is. Of the hour. He is the man.
And he created this book quite many years back. I want to say like the 90s or early 2000s, called The Intelligent Investor.
Do you consider yourself an intelligent investor?
I haven't finished the book yet. So, I have it on Audible, actually. I don't like to read much, but when I do,
I'm surprised you can read.
No, okay. I do have one book that I've been trying to get behind, and it's called the Answers to the Big Questions by Stephen Hawking, I believe is what the book's called. And it's basically Stephen Hawking's book talking about everything of his life's work. But regardless, one of the components that he talks about in the book Intelligent Investor is that you need to be an emotional investor, and what that means is that you have to be mentally stable to really understand that the stock market moves in one way or the other, and that you kind of have to like do the opposite is what I got from it. So for example, if the stock market is going up, that is not the time to invest.
Because one, everything's going to be more expensive.
It's going to be more expensive, and then when the stock market goes down, you're going to lose.
Yep.
So you have to be emotionally, stable enough to understand that just because it's going up and you're getting excited about it doesn't mean that you want to invest at that time. You want to wait until the stocks are going down because the stocks are going to be cheaper. And then when you invest, you'll be able to
make your money back.
Make your money back. Yeah, exactly.
So maybe invest during, I don't know, say a global pandemic.
Yeah. And so last week and the week before, the stock market was actually pretty low, but it's starting to rise back up again. And my understanding of that is because they're discussing a second stimulus check.
Trump bucks.
Yeah, so
I love my Trump bucks.
They're discussing giving everybody a second stimulus check, and if they do that, they're hoping that people invest it into stocks and companies so that the stock market goes back up and all the good jazz.
So to go off of that, I actually had a conversation with an old roommate of mine, and it's kind of, I don't want to say it's playing devil's advocate, but going off of the stimulus check, if you're anything like me personally, I didn't spend it. I put that $1,200 immediately into my savings, and that does not stimulate the economy, obviously. So Mark Cuban, Mark Cuban, another very famous billionaire, he proposed an idea which I doubt will even get any traction or attention. But instead of giving everybody $1,200, like just a check that you could do whatever you want with it, he proposed that you put the $1,200 on a debit card and send that debit card to every American, and they have to use that debit card by the end of, let's say, the month, or in 6 months. You have to spend that $1,200, and if you don't spend that $1,200, the government takes back what you didn't spend. So that's basically forcing people to spend the $1,200 on the economy. Now, I thought that was a really good idea, especially if you want to talk about stimulating the economy.
That's right. And I think the issue with that would be you would get these people that would spend it on clothes or shoes, which probably stimulates the economy in the sense of people buying things, but they're not necessities. And I actually went on to my Instagram story a few weeks back and kind of like gave a rundown of what I thought about the stimulus check. And I personally use it to pay off student loans and car debts and things like that. And so it did help me out a lot. And I was able to use it to pay back things that I owed. But same thing, I know people who saved it and for later dates, which is great. But, it gets tough when you have these people who use it irresponsibly and buy things like $800 PlayStations, which in some eyes is a necessity, which
I will be buying an $800 PlayStation when it's available. I can assure you that.
So it's anyway, back to the stock market. The stock market's going up, and so it's a good time to invest. And so I check my stocks regularly. I look at them and, figure out what's happening next and see what companies I can invest in. And I recently just got in touch with my financial advisor and discussed the possibility of investing into larger organizations and mutual funds and things like that to get stuff going. So I'm excited about that.
What kind of app do you use for your stocks? Do you use like Acorn?
Well, so they have Acorn, Robinhood, and what's cool about those is it's a zero commission site where they don't charge you to buy stocks. Whereas if you go through a brokerage,
they charge you X amount percent of everything you make.
So let's say you invest $1,000, they charge you 5% of that $1,000 to pay them, and then they invest your money for you. And so you lose a little money that way, which is good. And I understand
because you have professionals doing it for you,
and they kind of pick and choose and go through what you want and kind of recommend certain stocks to you. But so that's cool. The reason I wanted to bring up the stock market though was because Tesla was such a big topic.
Yep.
The last and final vocabulary I'm going to bring up for everybody is called the market cap for a company. To give an idea of the market cap, it's a way of identifying what companies are really up and coming and what companies are the bigger companies. For example, you have companies that are $100 billion and then you have companies that are $10 million. And the ones that are $100 billion are going to be more successful. And to give an idea that, you have 20 million shares at $50 a share, that means that market cap for that company is $1 billion, which is a pretty big company. To give an idea, Tesla is $137 billion market cap.
$137 billion.
Big B's, yep. Big B's.
Big B's.
So, we can go ahead and dive deeper into that next week. And
honestly, I'm game for that. I'm a business marketing major, and I don't have any money in the stock market yet. I learned a lot about it in college.
I would love for you guys to listen to this episode and give us some feedback about more stuff you want to hear regarding business and things like that, because I feel like even though we talk music and science, I feel like business is an important part of the world and should be discussed. And especially if people want more questions on it, I have no problem doing the research and answering what I can. But
absolutely. That'd be fun if people ask questions.
I think that's where we should wrap up the episode, and we're doing good. And I hope everybody enjoys it and give us some feedback. Stay tuned onto How Do You Like Your Coffee Instagram page for more album review picks and choices so that we can go ahead and pick which one you guys want to hear.
And try out the lemon henna tea.
Lemon henna tea.
Easy to make.
Hennessy, lemon tea, and honey, but we added some agave syrup. But
I say just go agave syrup instead of honey.
Yeah, agave syrup's good. If you haven't tried it, check it out. All right, people, stay tuned for episode 9 coming to you next week. Let's go.
Riding along through the deep valley where the dragons